Good morning, everyone. My name is Ken Jose Petizer de la Peña from Section Charlie. For today's video, I'm going to read Article 18, 19, 20 of Criminal Law Book 1. So, Article 18. Complices are those persons who, not being included in Article 17, cooperate in the executions of the offense by previous of simultaneous act. Requisite. An accomplice has knowledge of a criminal design of the principal, and all he does is concur with his purpose. There must be a relations between the acts done by a principal and those attributed to the persons charged as a compliance. In a homicide or murder, the complice must not have inflicted the mortal wound. So number one, there community of designs principal organizes the designs of complices only concurs. Number two, he cooperates in the executions by previous simultaneous act intending to give material and moral aid. Cooperations must be nullly done. It must also be necessary and not indispensable. Number three, there be a relation between the acts of the principal and the alleged accomplice. Examples: Juan was choking Pedro. Then Thomas ran up and hit Pedro with a bamboo stick. Juan continued to choke Pedro until he was dead. Thomas is only an accomplice because the fatal blow came from Juan. B. Lending a dagger to a killer knowing the letter's purpose. In summary of Article 18, establish that accomplices are individuals who collaborates with the principal offenders in the executions of crime through a pair simultaneous acts. The accomplices must be possess knowledge of the principal's criminal intent and actively support it, while there must be connections between the actions of the principal and those attributed to the accomplices. However, in a care of a homicide or murder, the accomplice should not be the one directly inflicted harm upon the victim. Article 19. Accessories are those who having a knowledge of the commissions of a crime and without having participated therein either as a principal or accomplice. Take a part as subsequent to commissions in any of the following manners. 1. By profiting themselves or assisting the offender to profit by the effect of the crime. 2. By concealing or destroying the body of the crime or the effect of instruments thereof in order to prevent its discovery. 3. By harboring, concealing, or assisting in the escape of the principals of the crime, providing the accessories acts with abuse of his public functions, or whenever the author of the crime is guilty of treason, parricide, murder, or an attempt to take the life of the chief executive, or is known to be habitually guilty of some other crimes. Example of Part 1. Persons receive and use a property from other knowing it was stolen. Example of Part 2. Placing a weapon in the hand of the dead who was unlawfully killed to plant evidence, or burying the deceased who was killed by the principals. Example of Part 3. A public officer who harbor, conceal, or assist in the escape of the principal of any crimes, not light felony, with abuse of his public functions. Private persons who harbor, conceal, or assist in the escape of the author of the crime, guilty of treason, murder, parricide, or an attempt against the life of the president, or who is known to be habitually guilty of some crimes. General rules: principal acquitted, accessories also acquitted. Exceptions: when the crimes was in a fact committed but the principal is discovered by exempting circumstances. Example: minor stole a ring in one, knowing it was stolen, bought it. Minor is exempted, one liable as accessories. Trial of accessories may proceed without awaiting the result of the separate charge against the principal because the criminal responsibilities are distinct from each other. Liability of accessories. The responsibility of the accessories is subordinate to that of a principal in a crime because the accessory's participations therein are subsequent to its commission, since his guilty is directly related to the principal's. If the principal was acquitted by an exemption of circumstances, the accessories may still be held liable. Difference of accessories from the principal in the compliance. Number one is accessories does not have take a direct part of the cooperate in or induce the commissions of the crime. Number two is accessories does not cooperate in the commissions of the offense by act either prior thereto the simultaneous therewith. Number three is participations of the accessories in all case always take place after the commissions of the crime. Number four is takes parts in the crime through his knowledge of commissions of the offense. Summary of Article 19 defines accessories as individuals who are aware of the crime but not directly involved in its commissions, engage in certain actions. After its occurrence, these actions included profiting from or helping the offenders profit from the crime, concealing or destroying evidence to prevent discovery, in harboring or assisting the escape of the criminals, especially in case of serious crimes or when the accessories abuses public functions. There's an example of these actions included receiving and using a stolen property, uh, planting evidence or burying murdered victims, public officers helping a criminal's escape, or private individuals assisting criminal known for serious crimes. The liability of accessories is subordinate to that of principals a criminal. If it's a principals is acquitted, usually accessories is also acquitted unless the crimes actually occurred, but the principal is exempt due to certain circumstances like being a minor. The trials of an accessories can proceed independently of the principal's trials, as their criminal responsibilities are separate. Accessories differ from principals in accomplices in that they do not directly participate in cooperate with the induce the crime. Their involvement only occurs after the crime has been committed and is conditional on their knowledge of the crime. In Article 20, accessories who are exempted from criminal liability, the penalties prescribed for accessories shall not be imposed upon those who are such with respect to their spouses, ascendants, descendants, legitimate, natural, and adopted brothers and sisters, or relatives by affinity within the same degree, with the single exception of accessories falling within the provisions of the paragraph 1 of the next preceding articles. Basis: ties of blood and preservations of the cleanliness of one name, which compels one to conceal crimes committed by relative so near as those mentioned, nephew and niece not included. Accessories not exempt when helped by relative principals by profiting from the effects of the crime or assisted the offenders to profit from the effects of the crime. Only accessories covered by Part 2 and 3 are exempted. Public officer who helped his guilty brother escape does not incur a criminal liability, as ties of blood constituted a more powerful incentive than the call of duty. Penalty: suffering inflicted by the state for the transitions of a law. Juridical conditions of penalty: retribution or expiations. Penalty commensurate with the gravity of the offense. Number two, correction or reformations. Rules with regulate the executions of penalties consisting of deprivations of liberty. Number three is social defense. Inflexible severity to recidivists and habitual delinquents. A is must be productive of suffering limited on the integrity of a human personality. B must be proportionate to the crime sanctions according to the gravity of the crime committed. C. Must be personal, imposed only upon the criminal, no proxy. D. Must be legal according to the judgment of fact and law. E. Must be equal, applies to everyone regardless of the circumstances. F. Must be correctional, intended to provide positions, rehabilitations to the offender. This passage describes exemptions from criminal liability for accessories, persons who assist in a crime but do not directly commit it. In certain familiar relationship, the penalties for accessories do not apply to spouses, ascendants, descendants, legitimate, natural, and adopted siblings, or relatives by affinity. Within the same degree, however, nephew and nieces are not included in these exemptions. The exemptions do not apply if the accessories profits from the crime or assist the offender in profiting from it. Public officers who help guilty relatives escape can avoid a criminal liability due to the compelling power of blood ties. The passage also explains the juridical conditions of the penalties, which are number one is retributions or exceptions. The penalty should be commensurate with the seriousness of the offense. Number two is corrections of the reformations rules governing the executions of the penalties involving the deprivations of liberty with the severe punishment for recidivist and habitual delinquents. The under the underlying principles of penalties are that they must cause suffering but should respect a human personality. B is most proportionate to the crimes committed, must be personal, imposed only on the criminal, not a proxy. Must be illegal according to the judgment of a fact and law. Must apply equally to everyone regardless of the circumstances. Must be correctionals intended to be rehabilitations to the offenders. And that's all for today's video, and I hope you understand my reading, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.